Liza here has something to say. When you're getting all worn out and getting all sad because somebody hurt your feelings, you can stand strong. And you can know that your words can be stronger than theirs. And you can either walk away from them or just start talking to somebody else that's closer. Remember, we love you very much.
Welcome to the Get in My Head podcast. I am your host, S.M. Holland, and today I'm going to be hanging out with my husband, Karl. A while ago, I asked a question on Twitter, and the question is, what is something you should not say to somebody who has bipolar disorder? Or you could rephrase it to say, what is something you should not say to somebody who is struggling with a mental illness? The husband is going to be reading off the tweets that I received, and I'm just going to give my opinion. So this is a whole opinion piece. Anyways, without further ado, I hope you enjoy.
Tracy Lynn Graham says, is this your manic phase?
Is this your manic phase? Once upon a time, I cut off like 16 or 17 inches of my hair. And the first comment from a friend was, are you manic when you did that? And it was so, I don't think she meant it to be hurtful at all, but it was like so insulting to me that whenever I go through like a big change, that someone would assume that, oh, I did something crazy because I was manic, not because, well, I just wanted a change. So yes, never ask a bipolar person if they're manic, because #rude.
Yeah, it assumes that the person doesn't have control or doesn't make decisions without being manic.
Why you gotta be so rude? Okay, next.
BK Bass says, I've heard people dismiss it out of hand, such as, everybody has mood swings. Why are you any different?
Because I'm special. Okay, so why are you any different? Well, why am I different? Why are my mood swings different than someone else who just has the regular run-of-the-mill mood swings? Let me start with, bipolar is a chemical imbalance in the brain. So I cannot control my mood swings. And they tend to go from extreme to extreme. Someone who does not have bipolar disorder, you can't always control your mood swings either. Sometimes moods just happen and you just have to deal with it. However, someone with bipolar, they just have much bigger swings from time to time. Bigger ups, bigger downs. And it's not something that you can control, which is why someone with bipolar disorder is different.
Yeah, and a lot of times with a bipolar disorder, the chemical imbalances in your brain aren't because of something happening on the outside. Your mood swings aren't because someone just gave you a raise or someone just fired you or something good or bad happened to you. They're not responses to things happening on the outside. There are things happening on the inside that have no relevance. So if someone asks you, which might be something later on, if someone asks you, why are you doing this right now? Or why do you feel this way? There isn't an answer.
Because I don't know.
Because there isn't a reason for her to feel this way or that way. It's a disorder. That's the point. That's why it's different. Okay.
Yes. Moving on.
Lucas J. Hewitt says, quit your whining and take it like a real woman.
OMG. I feel like we already kind of like went over that with the previous statement, but seriously, come on, people. Don't be so rude. And I hope no one ever said that to Lucas. If they did, I'm sorry. Kick them in the shins and run away really quickly.
But don't do it and then say that you were just manic.
I couldn't help it.
I was manic.
It's not an excuse to be mean to people.
No.
Okay.
So, WrestleMania says, You should throw your medication out. You need more exercise and eat better or alternative treatment.
Although eating right and exercising and taking care of yourself is a huge benefit to someone with, for people in general, especially for someone who's suffering with a mental illness, it is not always an alternative to taking medication. For you to tell someone to just get off their medication, one, it can be extremely harmful because some medications, if you just stop taking them, they can give you seizures, severe withdrawal symptoms. It can just be very dangerous. So it's not wise to just stop your medication. I don't recommend that for anybody unless after you consult your doctor, because most of the time you have to lower the dose you're on until you're on the lowest dose before you can stop your medication, so you don't hurt yourself in any way. What does Gregory Josephs have to say?
Gregory Josephs says, "Why do you always have to make such a big deal about things? Can't you see it's not that bad?"
Oh my goodness. So I remember when I was in high school, I got that a lot. I was very dramatic. I didn't know at the time I was bipolar. So I would always get overly excited about things, or if something was sad, I would be overly dramatic about it. So for me, I was reacting normally, but for those around me, it wasn't normal at all. And of course it wasn't normal. So I got that a lot. Can't you see it's not that bad? In reality, no, I could not see that it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, everything gets colored by the experience you have inside your head. And that's a piece that normal-brained people miss, is that there is more going on with whatever you're experiencing once it gets inside your brain. Your brain has to process it, and if the way it's being processed isn't going right, that affects what you react to. You're not just reacting to stuff on the outside, you're reacting to stuff on the inside.
Normal brain people.
Normal brain.
What does that even mean?
Should I change that statement?
Probably. I don't know. I feel like normal is relative. I feel like if you think, I don't know.
That's why I paused to figure out what I was going to say, use for that part of the statement there. But you can't just make an assumption of what the other person is experiencing, because you can't see inside their head. You're only seeing part of what they see because their experiences are necessarily different. Their brains are different. The chemicals going on are different. So you can't make an assumption about, well, why is it this bad or this like this for you? Because there are things you don't know. If you don't give them a chance to explain it, then you'll never know. So Lord Chulhu says, just be happy.
Just be happy. What's wrong with you? Just be happy. I feel like if you have never really struggled with a mental illness or suffered through depression, you have no idea. And there's no possible way for you to have a clue about what that other person is going through if you have never struggled in that way. But from firsthand experience, telling someone to just be happy is very hurtful and very harmful, because 99% of the time, that's all that person wants. That's all I want. I just want to be happy. But sometimes my brain, my body just won't let me be happy. And that's part of the struggle. Anyways, yeah. I would probably kick someone in the shins if they told me to just be happy. Yeah,
it just assumes that that's under your control when it's not. You're just dismissing the person's problem outright.
Yeah, that definitely devaluates someone's emotions, their feelings, what they're going through. How about instead of just be happy, maybe say something like, how can I help? Or even just the plain, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. AJ Couples says something similar. He says, snap out of it, or cheer up, or you'll be fine.
Again, all the same.
Assuming it's in your control to do those things. Yeah, that would be great to do. How do I do that?
Yeah. That's a big thing about mental illness, is that especially with bipolar, the mood swings and the depressions and the mania is not in that person's control. It is not in my control when I get really depressed. You know, it is not in my control when my brain makes me, you know, suicidal. Like, I cannot control those mood swings. And it's just really frustrating when people don't understand. I mean, I get why people don't understand. Like, why would you want to strive to understand someone who's been like really depressed or suicidal? Like, that's terrible. Like, if I had the choice, I would rather be on the side of, you know, like, well, I've been happy all the days of my life. No, that's not true. I feel like sometimes the depression helps me understand the joy better. Like, I have a deeper meaning of what joy and happiness is because I've seen and experienced the dark side.
Yeah.
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 I know you don't get it, but yeah.
No. So all I can say is, yeah. Concurrence.
That's okay.
What she said.
I love you anyways.
Well, Alex says, get well soon. Just get well soon.
Just get well. Just get over it.
Just get well soon.
You'll be fine.
Like it's a cold.
Yeah. It's just the
Like it's
flu.
the flu. It's just something that goes around and, you know, passes. You have 3 weeks and you know it's over.
I wish, man. Okay, who's next?
Shannon Ferretti says, I like you better when you are manic.
Who is next?
You know what? If you like her better when she's manic, then only then only come around when she's manic. No. If you like her, if you like her better when she's manic, don't say something like this, because one of the things that
well, don't say that at all. Like she can't control that.
No, and a lot of times a statement that's made, you don't know what's going to trigger a person to rise or drop. And a lot of times making a statement about something that's outside of your control, this is something I've noticed. Like, if I say something, tell her to do something that's outside of her control, that's when I actually trigger you to drop. Like, there's been things I've said to you where I can see the clouds just like instantly appear around you and that everything's gone the next day. If I want to make it like really personal and direct with you but like, part of the reason we're doing this as a podcast, I'm thinking, is that like these statements have a huge impact on a bipolar person's day. Like, if you're saying you want them to be manic all the time, one, it's saying you don't understand how the disorder works. Every high comes with a low as a correction or as a feedback, right? So you don't just get the highs. That would be great, but that's not how your body works.
Well, yeah. Okay. What does David Potts say?
David Potts, you're too happy. Or find the middle.
Yeah, I think that goes back to similar things that have already been said a little bit. And that was my problem. I didn't have a middle. I was always like really happy or just like flat out depressed. I didn't realize I didn't have a middle. And that was a problem for a lot of years.
George R. McNeese says, you'll get over it.
Whatever, you'll get over it.
Your face will get over it. Are you sure? Are you a doctor? Can you tell me for sure?
Where are these people coming from? Like, I'm sorry, George. Jeez, like, who says these things? People are so insensitive. I mean, I get it. I'm super insensitive.
It seems like the running theme is either you're acting like the expert over the person's disorder, like you know what's going on with it, which is, without training, there's no way, or experience, there's no way, right? Or you're just telling a person to do something that they actually can't do because that's the point of the disorder. That seems to be the running theme here.
Yeah.
So George McNeese also says, did you take your meds on time?
I don't know. Did you take your meds on time? That one makes me angry. Like, I had someone tell me once to shut up and take my meds, which at the time I was taking meds for just depression, which is a very bad idea for someone with bipolar disorder because it made everything worse.
Ann Pyle says, have you tried this? It cured my brother from his depression. Maybe it can cure you. Or, so you're crazy? Or, don't you belong in a hospital?
Oh, jeez.
Or, did you do this because you're bipolar? Or, are you manic right now?
Jeez, I seriously hope these people aren't really being asked this. And I know it's just, don't you belong in a hospital? Jeez, I'm feeling really, what's the word? Violent. Because if I break your legs, you'll be in a hospital too. These are, again, all assumptions that you know more about the mental illness than the person who has the mental illness. Next.
So Ken Palmer had a friend in college who was bipolar, and asking, how are you, was a landmine.
Dun, dun, dun.
It was better to say, nice to see you, because that didn't depend on how she felt.
Well, this can be good advice. I feel like, and maybe this is just me, and if I offend somebody, I'm sorry, but I feel like having bipolar disorder is not an excuse to be an asshole. Like, people are well-meaning, and if you can tell that someone's being well-meaning or assume that they're being well-meaning, then you don't have to, like, attack them. So I think asking, how are you, that's just a simple, concern question. Like, I wouldn't get mad if someone asked me how I was. Because a lot of the time, people don't know what to say or how to react. Especially when they learn or find out that, you have some other mental illness or you're bipolar. So I feel like if you are bipolar, like myself, and someone asks you a simple question and you explode on them, that's your problem. That's not the person asking the question's problem. That's just how I feel about that.
Yeah, and it's not like you won't have problems. It's not like you won't have days where you end up exploding at somebody because you weren't bracing for that question that sets you off. But
yeah, I mean, obviously,
on the other hand, it's not like the other person was doing that intensively, looking for that trigger.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, it's totally different if you know somebody really well, and you know that there are things that trigger you, and you explain to this person that there are questions or sentences that trigger you, and this person's like asking you these questions anyways after you've like had like conversations about it. That's one thing. Anyways, next.
G.H. Monroe says, I would imagine I know how you feel would be bad unless you actually also had to deal with bipolar disorder.
I know for me, like when people are trying to relate, I personally don't get upset about it because I know people are trying to be well-meaning. And I know for me, if someone is well-meaning, I try not to take offense, even if I feel offended, because most of the time that's my problem that I feel offended, not theirs. But if someone is like purposely being a jerkwad, then yeah, I'm going to get offended over that. So if they're being like sarcastic towards me, then back off, dude.
All right. Zandy Kane is talking mostly about how we can call the weather bipolar or unstable or crazy, and comparing that to actually being bipolar as a person.
Yeah. I never really thought about this before until recently. Poor Karl. Recently, we were looking at some buildings and you're like, whoa, that's so crazy. And I know you were meaning that like, that's so different or like strange or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it really like made me feel like weird. Like for some reason, using like crazy in that context, like, I don't know. It really hit me in a weird way. And I don't know why, but it was like one of those moments. Maybe I was just really irritable, but it was one of those moments where like I wanted to be like, expand your vocabulary and pick a different word.
Because those words are crazy.
Your face is crazy. Anyways, like again, I do think in order to continue to grow understanding and to educate people, comparing the weather or anything to being bipolar or another mental illness, I don't know. I don't like that very much at all.
No, it's borrowing on the stereotype, and making a stereotype out of a person's real struggle can't be helpful.
Yeah.
Arlen Lake says, here's a few from me. Never tell them they can just will it away or that they don't need their meds. Meds regulate the imbalance of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. When those spike, mania happens.
What she said.
MC Colum says, seriously though, I have a friend who always makes light of my most annoying manic moments by simply saying, bipolar much? With a smile or laugh, and it always seems to make me slow down and concentrate more on my behavior.
Yeah, I hate that. That has happened to me before, like manic much? And it just knocks the wind out of my sails. Like even if I'm not, I don't get manic, but I get like hypomanic, you know. Well, you don't know, but now you know. And that just, like I said, it just knocks the wind out of my sails and sometimes can ruin my day.
Yeah, it tells you that they don't see you as anything more than just a disorder, which is also not true. Like some of what we've been saying might make it seem like, yeah, everything that they do is based on the disorder, and they don't have any control over what they're doing and that kind of stuff. But that's not true. There's a lot to a person besides their disorder, and most of the reason for the therapy and the meds and all that stuff is to pull back on the disorder, pull back on its influence, so the rest of the person can, be who they really are. And so if you're just saying, oh, are you just being bipolar right now? Or are you just like, can I just put you in a box and throw you away? It's devaluing the person.
Next.
All right. Sage in the Nano Patch says, it's all in your head, or just relax, or, but you seem so normal.
So normal. But everyone's normal, right? I had a while ago, someone asked me if I was okay, because they're like, you keep on going to the doctors a lot. Like, are you doing okay? Are you like sick? Like, should we be concerned? And I decided at that moment that I was going to be like, just tell her, be upfront. That was one of the first moments where I was like, I'm just going to tell people I'm bipolar when they ask. And I said, no, I'm fine. I'm just bipolar. I'm just trying to get my meds figured out. And her response she was shocked. Like she was surprised. And she was like, really? You just seem so like calm and relaxed all the time. Like, how could you be bipolar? That it just blew her away. And that feeds to the stereotype that everyone who's bipolar is extremely explosive all the time, when that's not the case. So I am normal in my own awesome way.
So Nilima Kunam says, I liked you better before you went on meds.
I mean, sometimes I like myself better before I went on meds. Let's be honest. I don't know. Talking about someone and their medication is a very sensitive topic because you don't know how they feel. And I just think, as a rule of thumb across the board with any mental illness and struggle, just leave the medication out of it. It's none of your business unless that person opens up to you. And it is one of the most hurtful and offensive things you can do to to bring it up or to comment on it or to, tell them that, well, did you take your meds today, or you should get off of them or whatever. So just, yeah.
Right. And just as a background to that, part of the point is it's not your job to make sure that they're taking their meds. Anytime someone is in therapy or seeing a doctor for bipolar or other disorders, the doctors are very clear on who they appoint as monitors, if it's themselves or a spouse or a friend, who is supposed to be responsible in asking those questions. And it's a mutual thing. The person receiving the therapy says, yeah, that's a good person. I feel comfortable with them asking that.
Yeah,
so if you haven't been asked to help with that issue, it's not your business, because there's people that are in place for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you're someone's like accountability buddy when it comes to things like that. It's another thing when you're not. So knock it off.
All right, Felicia Denise says, stop it. There are people a lot worse off than you. You have much to be thankful for.
Ooh, I hate that so much. That 110% devaluates someone's emotions and struggles, feelings, what they are going through. You just pretty much told them, well, you're not that important, so I'm not going to, put much thought into you. See you later. Oh gosh, if you're one of those people that say that, come here so I can smack you. That's one of the rudest things you can say. I mean, to anybody. You don't have to have a mental illness or to be struggling. Like if someone is like even having a bad day and you ask them how they are and they tell you how they're feeling, and you turn around with, you have so much to be thankful for. There's starving children in Honduras or whatever, don't do that. If I have a rule of thumb that if the beginning of your sentence starts with, what did she say? There are people a lot worse off than you, etc., etc. You're wrong. That's all I have to say about that.
Shelby says, call your reps, says, have you tried natural medicine? I never wanted to need pills to get through the day.
Rude. Moving on.
Ashley Shante says, never say, you're crazy.
Never say that. That's so rude.
Kat, without me, says, did you take your meds? At the slightest change of a mood.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
T. William Phillips says, are you off your meds?
Yeah. What is it with people who are like obsessed with other people on their meds? All right, and now the very last one that we're going to read is Katie, and I am fully aware that we have been reading everyone's first names and last names and not their @ signs, so I'm sorry.
Oh, oops.
Katie says, don't ever tell us we're reacting wrong. Our bodies and our brains react, not us. Help us, don't scold us. Include us, don't shut us out. Hold us, don't run from us. But this is just my story. We're all a little different. I think that is a perfect conclusion to reading these.
Yeah, I think that pretty much says it. That's everyone else in the list was mentioning things not to say, and she kind of sums up all of those with what to do instead. So
yeah,
I think she kind of says it.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for my ender.
That was fun.
I love you.
I love you too.
I know some of y'all are really struggling right now, and if not you, you know somebody who is. If you need help, please check out my website, smholland.com. There you'll find a list of help hotlines where you can call or email or text to be able to talk to somebody if you need help. Remember, you're loved so much, and your life is a life worth saving. Thank you so much for tuning in and helping me break down the stigma surrounding mental illness. Until next time, just keep moving forward. I love y'all. Bye.